Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be standing here in front of this august audience comprising of Honorable Shri Piyush Goyal ji, comprising of Chief Minister from Arunachal Pradesh, Power Minister, so many dignitaries. It's inspiring. We heard a very, very positive and very challenging keynote address from Mr. Goyal in the morning. And I was wondering whether you would have the energy to again inspire us and rub off some more of the positivity. And I wonder how he does it. A small anecdote. About 3 years ago, myself and Shri Suresh Prabhuji, who is today the Honorable Minister for Railways, we were sitting together and we were hearing the Power Minister at that time justifying why a mere 60,000 megawatts of power could only be achieved in that 5-year plan. So what has changed this process that suddenly within a few months' time, where we were talking about achieving 60,000, 80,000 megawatts per 5-year plan, we are suddenly talking about maybe doing 50,000, 60,000 megawatts per year. Suddenly we are talking about dissolution of all problems. Suddenly we are talking about the positive aspects of economy. What has happened? I think what has happened is that a new set of people with a lot of positivity, with a commitment to learning, with a commitment to openness and transparency. It is the first time over the past few months that I've heard ministers praising bureaucracy and bureaucracy praising ministers. It's always been, we've seen that British serial, Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister, where both are at loggerheads, and it's suddenly a partnership approach that is coming in, not just between the ministry and bureaucracy, but between the government and the industry, between the ministers and the common people, cutting across political lines, cutting across the so-called state borders. We've always seen Maharashtra fighting with Karnataka and Karnataka fighting with Tamil Nadu and whatnot. This is a refreshing change. But did we have an option? I think what the Honorable Prime Minister has announced for Make in India is the logical way forward. India today contributes only 17% of its manufacturing, 17% to its economy, as against China, the manufacturing contributes 51%. We heard today a very focused call for development of skill sets. A lot of speakers have emphasized that we should develop skill sets. We are talking about 10 million jobs. I think we can be talking about 50 million jobs. We can be talking about 100 million jobs. But the important thing is that development of skill sets has to result in jobs for people. Otherwise, we will only be exporting manpower. As India has done before, we call ourselves the IT capital of the world, but most of our brilliant people reside outside India. A few months ago, India has become the third largest power producer in the world. On the flip side, our T&D losses are more than that of Germany. So in that sense, we are richer than Germany. Our power costs, average power costs, are higher than our neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, UAE. Even our costs are higher than Canada. We are actually comparable with France. In India, we have a disparity. One side, our power costs on the lowest end of the segment are the lowest in the world, comparable with Russia. And on the highest side, on the higher side, we are the highest in the world, comparable with UK and USA. We have no option but to grow in the power sector, because today our 250 gigawatt capacity is serving 125 billion people with a GDP of $2 trillion. US has got a 1200 gigawatt capacity with 320 million people and a 18 trillion GDP. China is 1250 gigawatts with 1.4 billion people and a GDP of 8 trillion. So even if we double our capacity in the next 5 years, we would yet be short, woefully short of China. And to double our capacity in the next 5 years would mean that what we've done in the last 65 years, we need to do in 5 years. At the end of the evening, I don't want to bore you with numbers, but we go back here with a very positive and very optimistic mindset that today we are partnering. The industry is partnering with the government is partnering with the bureaucracy, all for the good of the 125 billion people that stay currently in India. An important aspect would be for the government to consider removing subsidies, especially from the renewable segment, and replacing it with a higher income tax benefit. This could spur more growth in the renewable energy segment than we are doing so today, because subsidies are becoming a bottleneck and we need to de-bottleneck. On this note, I thank the Honorable Minister for Power, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, for coming here twice, and all the dignitaries out here. It has been a great day for discussions, for interactions. And the two things that the government needs to focus on, which we discussed today, were they need to discuss on or focus on distribution reforms, and they need to focus on renewable energy. Thank you. Have a great evening ahead. We look forward to all of you joining us for cocktails and dinner. Thank you. Good evening.